Together, we're exploring the intersection of faith, biology, and the signals that shape how we heal.
You'll hear conversations about nervous system safety,
peptides, and cellular communication,
prayer, trust, and what it means to live aligned with design.
No hype,
no pressure,
just curiosity, relationship, and truth.
Welcome to Prayer and Peptides. If you're listening with intention today, drop Renewal, the word of the episode. It tells the algorithm that this kind of conversation matters, and it enters you into our giveaways and lets us know that we're not having this dialogue alone. Before we talk about changing your thoughts, let's pause, like we always do. Maybe this is the only pause that you get this week. What thoughts have been looping lately? Amy says, what's on your CD-ROM? The one that feels permanent. The one that feels like truth. Now consider this. What if it's not truth? What if it's just repetition? The brain does not get stuck. It gets efficient. And today we're talking about how efficiency can change.
Neuroplasticity means that the brain reorganizes based on repetition. So if we are repeating stress, that becomes fluent. If we are repeatedly criticizing ourselves, that soon becomes automatic. And think about fear. If you're always worried, you're going to expect the worst. So the brain prioritizes what's familiar, not really what's accurate, which means some of what feels like identity is actually just rehearsal. Most people try to change their stinking thinking, right, through their own willpower. They're trying to force change, but the brain doesn't respond to force. It responds to repetition and safety. Again, a lot of this is just rehearsal. So what you're telling yourself and what you're listening to and who you're listening to is not actually identity. So where have you guys mistaken familiarity? Help me say that word.
Familiarity.
Familiarity.
It's a hard word. It's lots of eyes.
So where have you guys mistaken what's familiar for identity?
Wow. I have to really think about that one because I get such into a routine that I do just get stuck. So Anna, I might need your help on some examples on this one.
So we talked about the other day how Amy is really hard on herself on her CD-ROM about how she beats herself up, but Lauren and I would never talk about her that way. Ed would never talk about her that way. Her children would never talk about her that way. We all love Amy. So Amy needs to take a little bit of our CD-ROM coding of how much we love her and put it on her CD-ROM because she beats herself up and is like, I'm the mom, I've got to do all the things. I run all these businesses. I'm starting another one. I'm starting a podcast. I'm going for walks. I'm doing the things. I'm going on vacation. I'm having the friends. I'm doing like all this stuff, right? So it would be really easy for Amy to get overwhelmed and think that she can't do it all. And she's doing it flawlessly, at least all from our perspective, right? So she may fall into bed exhausted at the end of the night and hit a wall, but she doesn't necessarily let on that those things happen. And we did see in one of our previous episodes that Amy has a very vulnerable spot. And we acknowledge her and love her and hold her safe for feeling that and sharing that she does have some vulnerabilities. Her CD-ROM did a little bit of rewiring that it was safe to be that vulnerable. So I want her to, what was the word? I gave you a word of, I wanted you to reframe. I have to go and look it up.
You're going to have to look it up because
I'm going to insert the clip here.
Just set us up for this. But I truly hear stress and I think normal. And I almost have anxiety when I don't have a little bit of stress.
Can we change your word of how you handle stress from normal to highly resilient?
We can try.
Okay. Because when you still get those stressful moments, it still creates that low level of stress that, like normal people, it would totally send them into a tailspin. But you are highly resilient when it comes to your stress because you've done the things to build up that muscle and to be able to handle that. Doesn't mean your body doesn't recognize it, which is why you need the rest, or why the anxiety and the heart flutters and the things happen with the Hashimoto's when it's like, hey, you're not doing the other things to take care of yourself, Miss Amy. So let's let's get this figured out. But I would challenge you to go from normal to highly resilient, because stress still affects you. It's not normal like brushing your teeth or opening your eyes in the morning. There's still a cost. There's still a thing for you. So I recommend that.
I will definitely work on that. And you said it's about getting your tolerance, or my tolerance, maybe not getting mine, but we talk about that a lot. Actually, my boss and I.
We've slept since then. I wanted her to reframe whatever she was feeling on her CD-ROM, which was not actually the truth, but she had played it so much that she had a groove of that's how she felt. And so we gave her a new word, which shifted that over a little bit and put it in a positive light of, oh, no, I can do this. I'm resilient. I can do the things. And we do that all the time, right? Or we get so ingrained to think about something that happened between someone else or an interaction, or this is that thing that you wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking about the thing that happened in second grade and you can't sleep. Like, that's ingrained neuroplasticity. It's hardwired. Why? I don't need to be carrying that around. I only have so many penguins with so many backpacks on my iceberg. That is one piece of information that I don't need to carry around anymore. But what are those things in your life that you are keeping in your penguins' backpacks? Have y'all heard that explanation before? So we all the knowledge that we have is on an iceberg. And we have so many penguins with so many brains, and they have all of their knowledge. So knowledge from school, knowledge from work, how to cook, like all of those things, right? Well, then they're wearing little backpacks. So when you get a new piece of information, when you learn a new recipe or you learn a new skill set, they go in the backpack. That means something has to come out of the backpack. So the second grade event that has nobody remembers but you, I promise the other people that were in your second grade class are not losing sleep over it like you are. That my shoe was untied and I tripped. Or I really had a crush on a boy in sixth grade and I gave him a love note and he didn't find it till he was cleaning out his locker at the end of the year. And he's like, what is this? And threw it away. I'm like, so, but he doesn't think about that. I promise you, he does not think about that ever. And that will now be something that comes up because the more we think about it, and it tends to be those big life moments that are attached to us emotionally. So you're not going to remember the things that you don't have an emotional attachment to. So how can we, Amy, how can we reset our CD-ROM or rewrite our CD-ROM? For those of you that don't know what a CD-ROM is, like it's a shiny disc thing that we used to be able to put music on that we got from places we probably shouldn't have been.
But so you want me to talk about how I rewire my CD-ROM. Honestly, being vulnerable has helped. One reason why I'm doing this podcast is to be vulnerable and allowing myself. I've also had to do better about taking compliments. That is a really tough thing. I don't know if you struggle with that, but when somebody says something to me, when they give me a compliment, and I've even had people call me out and be like, you're allowed to accept the compliment. You're allowed to accept the praise. You're allowed to believe it. Because there's always that little part where I'm like, ooh, could I have done a little bit better? Or do they really mean that? Or like, is it genuine? Like, I don't deserve that. So I've really worked on learning to take in compliments. I also have done a better job at recognizing who my true core inner circle is. And my husband always says, and this is going to come off bad, but it really doesn't mean it bad. He's like, the only opinions that really matter are who under our roof. And if all of us are okay, that does not mean that we don't care about what our parents say or what our friends say. But at the end of the day, if that everybody that's in our house is on the same page and we're all good, what does it matter? That really has helped me a lot. And then when you were talking about the penguins, right? And I was thinking about what do I carry on that like I could really just like take off my back. I'm a fixer, I'm a pleaser, and I'm a doer. I take action, like on the disc, I'm a D, like let's go. I'm actually a DI, but the reason for me is I want to solve the problem and get it. So if one of my friends comes to me, I will take on their problem. I will take it on and I will want to fix it. And I will definitely do things like want to follow it through until it's solved. Or sometimes I'm like, that's not really my problem to be taking on throughout the whole day or through a week. Or like Anna said, it's not my problem in 2 years. But sometimes I'm like, oh, how are they doing? It's not my problem. But I make it my problem.
So on that note, and I know Lauren knows hers, so I'm going to ask her what hers is. So on the disc, I'm an ID. I am the opposite of you. So I like to have the big ideas. I like to do all of the things. I like to set the project in motion. I don't necessarily like to execute the detail all the way through. So that is something that I actively practice. So, and y'all have seen the fruits of that labor of how my brain works and seeing how I have things organized, and then it'll click and I'll get everything organized so it makes sense to everybody else. So Lauren, what are you on the...
So my personality is a high I. I mean, I think I have to be with what I do at work all day long. I'm a connector. I talk and I chat and I try to listen, and I'm an I. I just had that in me, but not always am I an I. Like when I'm at home, I tend to not be that way. I used to be ID as well, and very direct in things and get things done. I don't know what has happened over the last years, but I've shifted to more of an IS. I'm more of like a stabilizer. I help people along the way. I'm really good at like supporting, but probably not the best at like directing when it comes to certain things, especially when it comes to like something new or something that I don't know a lot about. I mean, obviously I'm not going to try to direct somebody in something that I have no idea about. So, but when it comes to like my CD-ROM and trying to figure things out and change some of my stinking thinking, I think for me, I need a huge shift in like who I am around in that moment. And it's very much like what you were saying, Amy. You know, what matters the most is like what's happening underneath your roof. You know, as long as everything's okay in your home and you guys are all on the same page. And for me, like if I'm around certain people, because I'm a high I can easily like, it takes a lot out of me to stay strong in my own beliefs and in my own values and my own morals, and because you hear so many different opinions, and I just want to be so loving and accepting and helpful, but I don't want to do it in such a way where I'm compromising who I am. And that is really easy for me to do. It's like to sit and listen to something that I do not agree with and say, oh yeah, I get that. And I may get that, but then it could also come across that I'm like agreeing with that other person. Does that make sense? Like I take on whatever they're saying and I'm listening and I'm agreeing, but that doesn't mean that I really truly feel that way. I'm just letting them know that I can understand where they're coming from. I do see it from their perception, even though maybe that's not truly how I feel. And so for me, sometimes that's really hard to, like, I don't know if I'm putting something in my backpack or taking something out in the moment. Like as the little penguin, what am I doing? Am I putting something in my backpack and saying, okay, you know, I'm just going to love you and be compassionate and all the things? Or do I take something out of my backpack and say, no, this is not where I'm at. This is not how I feel. And sometimes it's just not worth telling people sometimes like what you really think and how you feel. Sometimes it's just, you just need to listen to what somebody else is doing. And so for me, you know, and I know like the disc personality is not really our true identity, right? It's just a tool. It's a resource to let you know like where you are strong in your personality and how you can relate to others. But sometimes I think it's easy to take on some of these identities and not really pay attention to where we are and like who we're with and how it's coming across to other people.
So maybe we should do in season 2, do a couple of episodes on prayers, peptides, and personalities of how we show up in the world as who we are with our strengths and our weaknesses and how we can manage that, and then how we interact with others. So let us know in the comments if you would like to see that episode.
If this is describing something you've experienced, tap the thumbs up. It helps this message reach people who think they're broken when they're actually patterned.
Neural communication depends on signaling. Pathways strengthen when they are reinforced consistently. When signaling is supported over time, people often notice emotional reactions from less charged. I know that's me. Thoughts of less, feeling less rigid, change feels possible again. Certain peptide signaling, it really is supports. It supports neural communication, not forcing positivity, not overriding emotion, reinforcing healthier patterns until they feel familiar. Reinforcing them is important because consistency builds pathways. Intensity overwhelms them. If exploring tools that support neural signaling instead of suppressing it, we've linked them below. Can I start that over? Sorry. If you're exploring tools that support neural signaling instead of suppressing it, we've linked what aligns with this approach below, only if this fits your season.
Did your morning begin in reaction? Did you startle yourself awake with an alarm? Did you get a text? Did you open your phone, get on social media, check an email, do all the things that just dumped you into your day, into the notifications, into the tasks, into the tension? I want to encourage you this week to talk to God first. So if you have to open your phone, put on the Bible app and listen to a verse. Put on some worship music that's your alarm and that's how you wake up, and you don't get out of bed until you've listened to one whole song. Reset your intention. So if we do other things and get distracted before we even talk to God, our nervous system is already bracing. And I want you to be aware of that. I want you to notice that your day feels a little disjointed when you start your day before you even get out of bed. Mornings don't need to be rushed to be productive. They need to be anchored to feel supported and powerful. We created a simple guide called the Faith-Fueled Morning Routine, and it walks you through a devotional rhythm, a breath reset, and gentle movement flow that you can do in under 45 minutes. Take pieces of it. Integrate what works for you in your morning routine. Nothing extreme, nothing overwhelming, just peace before the pressure. And I think we could all use a dose of that more often. So, and it's free at prayerandpeptides.com if you want to start your day aligned instead of reactive. Scripture says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Take every thought captive. Renewal implies repetition. This is a daily thing that we need to do. It's not, hey, I learned the alphabet. How many times did you repeat the alphabet? How many times do you count through the alphabet if I asked you what is the 17th number? I know the 10th number is J, so I can at least start there and then count back. I know the first letter, the third letter, all that middle stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I know the 26th letter. Why is it 26? Right? But we went through and practiced all of that, and still, even as adults, we have to sing the ABC song to put files in order or do the thing. It's just ingrained in us. Repetition implies patience. You had to learn that. I want to remind you that everything that you can do today, at one point you could not do. You could not walk, you could not talk, you could not run, you could not sing, you could not feed yourself, you couldn't bathe yourself. All of those are learned skills that you do on a repetition on a daily basis. Prayer is not performance, it's practice. The mind reshapes in safety. So have you ever had that prayer of, hey, God, you take it from me. I just can't anymore. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I need to feel safe. Rather than, hey, here's my problem. Why aren't you fixing it? Like, that is a totally different energy level, right? So faith and neuroplasticity mirror each other. So the more that we have those conversations of, hey, I know that you have this. You're going to clue me in when it's my turn to know something, but I don't need to worry about it. So I do this exercise, and I want to encourage you to do it too. Make 2 lists. Write your name and your list of things that you can control, of the things that you are responsible for. And then I want you to write God's name in a line and write his list. What is he responsible for? And then I want you, after you do both of those, write your list under God's list. So I would write Anna's things that she needs to do, which is a very short list. All the things that God needs to do about a particular problem or solution. And then I write Anna's list is God's responsibility. It takes that pressure off. Repetition in the relationship and the conversation changes the wiring. So my question to you is, where has repetition strengthened your faith over time? Like, what is the consistent thing that you have both done that has strengthened your faith?
I think for me, to strengthen my faith, it's just been going to church regularly. Going to church and hearing God's message, hearing scripture, listening to worship music. Also, like, I used to have a commute, and in the car, I would listen to a lot of worship music. I don't really have a long commute anymore. I'm literally 9 minutes away from where I work now. And so basically, I just don't even turn the radio on sometimes, or it's just a quick call to my mom before my day starts or after my day starts. But I used to really listen to a lot of worship music, and that, hearing those lyrics over and over again, and hearing the promises over and over again, and who Jesus really is over and over again. And it does strengthen your faith. It does help. And going to church and seeing other people that, you go to church with, and being part of prayer groups or Bible studies, things like that really does help. Another thing that has really strengthened my faith is serving. I think having a servant heart and really serving other people, and that's not just like serving at church. That is serving in your home. That is serving at your work. There's so many people out there, and they're like, well, that's not my job, or I don't get paid for that, and yeah, that's true. You may not get paid for that, but at the end of the day, it is serving somebody else. And I do believe that our work is God's work. And so serving is something that has also helped me in my faith over time, because sometimes it's something I just don't really want to do. And it's like, you know what? But this is the right thing to do, or this is the kind thing to do, or, this is how you really show love this way. So those are some of the things that have strengthened my faith over time.
Mine's a lot different of an answer, but one thing that's really strengthened my faith is being open to signs from God. I really opened up with this, and it really started when my grandmother passed away. And I'll tell a story about it. So before she passed away, she had a conversation with my mom about how my mom told her, I want to know when you're safe after you pass. And they came up with, she's like, tell me anything, give me a sign. And my grandma goes, I've got it. And my mom's like, okay, what? She's like thinking, it's going to be something that's a symbol, that's truly like that she can see it and know, like concrete. She goes, the color blue. And my mom's like, the color blue? Like, how am I going to know it's you? My grandma goes, it came to me and I believe this. So one day after my grandmother had passed, my mother got this like pull in her heart. And the pull was to go to my grandmother's grave. And my grandma always told us, don't go there. You know what? I'm not going to be there. So she just said, that's not where I'm going to be. But my mom had this like urgency to go there. She said it was this calling, like, go. So my mom drove in the car, drove over there. And there was a blue feather, like petal on the grave. And my mom's like, I walked all over to see if there was any other like flower petals that were that color, and it was a fabric one. And she's like, I looked everywhere. She goes, Amy, I couldn't find it. I don't know what happened. Maybe this is a sign. A week or two later, I get this same similar pull. I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I need to go to my grandmother's grave. Drive over there. I find the exact same flower petal on her grave. So I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, you'd never believe this. So I start believing in like the little winks from God now. Like I really believe them. Well, recently my father-in-law, I told you, had passed, and man, he is showing so many winks through my son in college that I know he has him. I know he is safe. I know that God had a plan for this, even down to when my mother-in-law came to visit after my father-in-law's death. She went to visit Vincent at college. As soon as she walked into the hotel to give Vincent a hug, the church bells rang right behind her. And she said, man, what a message. He's here with me. And there's been so many like signals and winks. And I've had discussion with my mother-in-law, who's a very faithful person. And she said, how do you keep seeing these signs? And I don't know if I'm getting them. I'm like, he is shouting them to you. My father-in-law is, God is, everybody is shouting them to you. You just have to open up and say, these are for me. And I don't think it's always just around a death, but those are two examples. But I've started opening myself up to seeing the signs that God gives to each of us every day, that he's there, he's got us, there's a plan, and we're safe. And knowing that has been so comforting. And I've been able to get through a lot of tough things because of being open to the signs that I'm not alone.
The sparrows don't have to worry where they're going to get fed, and trees don't have to worry when they're going to get watered, and they still grow because he takes care of it, right? I love that there are those things that you're just open to of, hey, it's a confirmation for you that God has got it. Like, who knows where the blue thing came from? So my question was, did your mom like leave that one and stick a pin in it and stick it in the ground so you would see it? Or is it did your mom take that one and it was totally different and you took the second one?
We both have our own.
Okay, so that is that little nod. It's just out there in the big old world all by itself, nothing else around. Like, that's a cool thing. And it's also that God can shout and get our attention, but he can also whisper. And if we are in that small, like if we're in that daily communication, and I also think about it this way, is if I can't hear God, I'm not in the right place. I have walked off the path that I can't hear him. So I need to scooch my little booty back over and get back on path and get doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's that daily starting the day with him more than anything else.
We try to argue with our thoughts, but pressure strengthens old pathways. Safety builds new ones, and you don't conquer patterns, you actually retrain them. So choosing one reoccurring thought, introduce a gentler alternative, and repeat it daily. No perfection, just repetition. Let renewal be rhythmic.
Peptides act as messengers. When neural signaling is supported consistently, people often report increased mental flexibility, greater emotional steadiness, clearer thinking, because communication improves. Resources are in the show notes if you're exploring. Don't forget to comment Renewal, the word of the episode, and subscribe to continue building the conversation with us.
If something in today's conversation stirred you, send it to the person who came to mind. That's how this message moves, person to person, and we can't do it without you. If you want to stay connected, go ahead and subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. All the resources and goodies are linked in the show notes, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram. Until next time, stay prayerful, stay curious, and keep listening to the signals. The content shared on Prayer and Peptides podcast is for educational, informational, and inspirational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, nor is it a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussions around peptides, nervous system regulation, stress, sleep, hydration, and wellness are presented as general educational concepts and reflections on the body's design, not as medical recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician, a licensed healthcare provider, or qualified medical professional regarding any medical condition, symptoms, medication, supplements, or health discussions. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice because of something you heard on this podcast. The host and guests of Prayer and Peptides are not acting as medical providers. Any personal experiences or stories shared are anecdotal and not intended to imply guaranteed outcomes. Spiritual reflections, prayer, and scripture-informed insights are offered as relational and supportive practices, not as replacements for medical or mental health care. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that Prayer and Peptides assumes no liability for actions taken based on the information presented.